Falcon need the equivalent of about one small bird a day to survive. One of the marvellous things about the Wakatipu is that it has an extraordinary number of falcon, and in an effort to try and explain why we have so many falcon here and what is different is the amount of shrubland that we have in the Wakatipu. Why would the shrubland be good habitat for falcon? Of course it's habitat for bird prey. Well, we're at Moat Lake, and this is one of the sites for my study of passerines, this food for falcon, to find out how much falcon food these little bits of shrubland actually hold. So we went to these two little bits of shrubland over here last year, and we set up our mist nets and we caught 62 small passerine birds, perfect falcon food. We've got a fair mixture of native birds like tomtits, a lot of grey warblers and wax-eyes. In the exotic birds it was dominated by yellowhammers, chaffinches, blackbirds. Matagari, great little plant. It's the pioneer when all this landscape was burnt and introduced into grazing for sheep. The first thing that fought its way back was Matagari. But once they get thicker, they start keeping the stock out, and then you get coprosmas and you get illyrias and all these other little plants that need protection from stock and heavy grazing. And as soon as you get that input, you start getting a lot of birds coming in, because what happens is you get an understory forming, so you get your grass knocked back and you start getting an insect action happening. We think of Matagari as the great protector with its huge spines. This is the driver of most of central Otago's grey shrublands, Coprosma purpunqua. The work's been done on these as individuals. Down the Rocklands in central Otago, we found that it was 93 different species for that in this Coprosma. One of the key things with New Zealand insects is they often are quite host specific. Like the insects that are on this are not necessarily the same insects that will be on the mountain wineberry. So this is Liriodorata, and it hosts 115 different species of insects. These are the stalwart of moth habitat, and in New Zealand moths are very important. We have a huge variety of moths. We look at our bird levels, our abundance of everything during the breeding season, which during that period of time yellowhammers and just about all of the introduced seed eaters actually are feeding their offspring insects to some degree. You have a falcon sitting on the rocks up there, reaches enormous speeds by the time they come down here, and the bird often doesn't realise it's been hit until it's been taken. What we need to do to ensure falcon continue in our landscape the way they're doing is to retain and hopefully expand the shrubland component. What are the threats? Well, the threats are probably farming. It's a matter of really working with farmers to say X amount of shrubland in your landscape will be great. Is that a possibility? In many of these extensive farming situations, it's absolutely possible. And it is what farmers want to do, is to work with conservation. No one wants to get rid of falcons in New Zealand. The other risks are probably fire, would be one of the biggest ones. And we've had extensive areas of shrubland in central Otago that have gone grazing from cattle. If you have shrublands, a few sheep probably don't matter too much, but you certainly wouldn't want deer, and of course goats. Exotic conifers have the ability to seed into most all their shrubland, and of course they overtop very quickly. Exotic conifers will outgrow a 4-metre canopy within 10-15 years. The threat's huge, Now if we have a look over here, you can see out here this pasture. Out there we large, apart from things like skylarks, we don't actually get very many small passerine birds, or not during the breeding season anyway. And we find that there's an order of magnitude more birds in the shrubland than there is out here. And 1 to 2 birds per hectare out in this sort of intensive agricultural area to 18 to 28 birds per hectare in our shrublands. Falcon need the equivalent of about 1 small bird a day to survive. Getting that sort of numbers, we actually need about 1/5. At 1/5, 20% of the landscape needs to be in shrubland cover to ensure that we retain strong and abundant grey shrublands, so that we're not only going to have falcons into the foreseeable future, but we're also going to have all those thousands of invertebrates that we don't even know are rare yet.